Today we're going to make our writing stronger by revising a narrative to set up a story and provide an ending. So before we can just jump into the action in our story, we actually have to take some time to set it up. There's some key information that our reader needs to know before they can get into the real action of the story. We need to introduce three things: the main characters, their goals, and the setting. To look to see how a very strong author does this, we're going to look to Harry Potter, one of my favorites. So we're actually going to read one of the paragraphs out of the introduction chapter of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So go ahead and pause the video, read the paragraph, and then press play. In this short paragraph, we already learned a lot about the main characters, their goals, and the setting. Let's zoom in a little bit more. In this paragraph, we learn a lot about how the main characters look, specifically Harry. There's a lot of description about how Harry looks, but we also learn a little bit about how Dudley looks as well. We learn a lot about his lightning bolt scar later on in the story, so this becomes very important. It's a key detail that we learn right up front. We also learn about how the main characters interact. So we can see here that Dudley and Harry don't have the best relationship. They're cousins, but they don't really get along. We also learn that Harry has a little bit of problem with his past. He doesn't seem to know a lot about his past. This is going to become important later on in the story, and there we go, we learn it right up front in the introduction. In addition to learning about the characters, what they look like, how they interact, what are some key details about them, we also learn about their goals. So we can see here that Dudley and Harry don't really get along. So one of Harry's goals might be, how do I live with Dudley? He's so mean to me. We also see that because Harry doesn't know a lot about his past, that one of his goals might be to learn a lot more about his family, about his situation, about things that he's not really told about. This also becomes important later on in the story. And lastly, we learn about the setting. Okay, this helps our reader picture what's going on in the story, but it also might provide some key details for what's going to happen later. So even though this is only one paragraph, you can see it's chock full of information that is going to be important for our reader to understand the rest of our story. After we've set up our story, we've given, all the action, somebody wanted but so, the last thing is then, right? So then we have to provide an ending. We don't want to leave our reader just hanging. We have to wrap it up. There are a couple things that we need to wrap up. First, we're going to check in on the main character's goals and wrap those up. And then we're also going to wrap up the main conflict. So just circling back to the same book, this is the ending of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And I intentionally did not give any spoilers, so don't worry about that if you haven't read it. Go ahead and pause the video and read the last part of this book. So the author does a really good job of wrapping up the main character's goals and the main conflict. So just to remind you, one of the goals that we talked about in the introduction was how Harry and Dudley are going to get along. And as you can see here, Harry's kind of created a solution for himself, right? Even though his uncle is still being mean to him, even though he doesn't like living there, he has a solution, which is to be able to use what he's learned at Hogwarts, take it home, and make his life a little bit easier. Okay. This also kind of ties into our main conflict. So throughout the book, Harry has some problems with fitting in. And as you can see here, he's providing himself a solution at the very end of the story. So we leave this book knowing that Harry is okay, that Harry is going to be all right, and that he's checking in on his goals and he has some solutions for himself. We don't want to just leave our reader with conflict. We want to make sure that they understand that there is some sort of resolution at the end of our story. Now it's your turn. So first you're going to revise the beginning of your story to introduce the main characters, their goals, and the setting. Then you're going to revise the end of your story to wrap up the main character's goals and the main conflict. When you're done, flip your cup to red.